Hello, and welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for July of 2023. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
And I'm Julia Mijas, and I'm in San Francisco, California.
Let's take a look at what's happening this month for you. Happy birthday, Cancer. If you haven't gotten your yearly birthday reading yet, it's not too late to benefit from a thorough look at your solar return birthday chart. It tells you all about the year ahead and comes with fantastic affirmations you can use all year to create your best life. You'll find a link for that in the description below. Well, Ceres is in Libra all month, right here in your 4th house, and that's going to be going on until mid-September. Ceres moves rather slowly. It usually is in a sign, any given sign, for about 2 months. And wherever Ceres is, you want to bring good stewardship to this domain. You want to pay attention to how things are organized. This is the Earth Mother archetype. And so paying attention to having a good life of the body and bringing a very practical approach to this house is what Ceres is asking you to do. Now, this is the 4th house, which covers home and family, domestic life, heritage, and roots. Ceres is pretty comfortable in this house and would like you to, figure out what your cooking plan is for the week and how you're going to feed yourself and your family according to the ways that each body in the household needs to be nourished. So this is a great transit and may also be an occasion for getting clear of whatever financial snafus that your household and your family might have encountered over the last couple of months when Ceres went retrograde. Ceres went retrograde in February, and I told you about that in your horoscope that month, and then put us all through a financial rebalancing period. But the really good news is that Ceres has left her retrograde span at 6 degrees Libra by the middle of the month right here on the 15th. And we call this Financial Resolution Day. And it's a time when everything that got all tangled up and all of the messes that you encountered regarding your money and how you manage it, all that stuff that's gone on in the last couple of months should have come to a resolution by now, and whatever plan you have should serve you well going forward. Alrighty. So Juno is the next thing I want to talk about, and here she is right here in your 1st house. Now, Juno is an asteroid goddess to do with committed relationship. She is all about partnership that has duration, whether that partnership is like a spousal relationship, a long-term romantic relationship, or a business relationship. When Juno shows up in the 1st house, this is a great time for you to be particularly socially adept. Networking with people, connecting with people, helping people to connect with each other, especially if it's going to support you to have them connected in your network. Another thing about Juno in the 1st house is that if you do happen to be in a committed long-term personal partnership, such as a marriage, you might find this month that you're really identifying with that marriage right now, and that you're really embodying the archetype of the spouse, particularly the supportive spouse. And so bringing all of the nurture that you can muster into your marriage should lead to some pretty good results this month, and should also give you a sense of identity that you can really step into. Then the last thing I want to tell you about before I turn this over to Julia is that Chiron has been traveling along through Aries for several years now and has got a couple more years to go traveling through Aries. Chiron is passing through your 10th house, and the news this month is that Chiron is going retrograde. So Chiron begins the month direct, and we can see that because there's no little red RX symbol here. That means retrograde. Chiron is the wounded healer, and wherever Chiron goes, he brings up old wounds to the surface for healing. Now, it's completely normal and human to mistake things that happen to you as new wounding being laid in the present moment. But if you can see it as a trigger of something older and deeper, and you can instead address the thing that's old that maybe has been buried because you haven't had the time or the resource to pay attention to it before, if you can now let that come to the surface and be healed, you'll find yourself so much more whole than you've been before. Chiron's passage through your 10th house is like a 7-year thing. It's in a little bit further than the middle, so it's in about year 4 of this. And the 10th house is the domain of career and outer life, your public life, your reputation out in the world, and your place of business. So Chiron has been bringing up old wounding regarding your sense of being an authority, being respected, having a good reputation out there in public, and being effective in your line of work, and building, building great things along the arc of your career and approaching your purpose. So Chiron might bring up some owies about that, especially this month, especially around July 23rd, when Chiron goes retrograde. Let's see that happen. Yep, there it is, the little red RX symbol. Chiron goes retrograde that day and begins a several-month journey to really dig into that old wounding that's really been getting in the way of you building the wonderful reputation that you want to be having. So definitely something to notice. Hey, Julia, what's up with the 3 inner planets for the Cancers of the world this month?
Well, hey there, Cancer. I'm going to start with a more challenging one, and I'm going to end with the easiest one. So the more challenging one is Mars. Mars is the planet of action and activity. Wherever we have Mars is where we can be very driven, but it's also where we can run into conflict as well, because this is the warrior archetype after all. So Mars starts the month in your 2nd house of possessions and finance. It's only there for the first 10 days of the month. But with Mars in this house, you could be feeling very driven to make more money, very driven to acquire new things in your life, new possessions. But you also can run into conflicts over money, maybe arguments over money, like with your business partner or maybe some family members, as well as being a bit impulsive with money too. So watch out for that. But by July 10th, Mars enters your 3rd house, where it's going to be for the rest of the month. This house rules your neighbors, it rules your siblings and cousins, and it's also the house of communication, and it represents short journeys like your commute. So with Mars in this house for the rest of the month, the areas of life where things might get a little bit feisty are in relationship to any brothers and sisters you might have, maybe your neighbors, maybe you run into more disagreements, or things might just come up in your neighborhood, like getting a parking ticket from a police officer when you swore you were in the correct line of where you're supposed to park your car. These could be coming from your neighbors as well as your neighborhood. And since this is the house of your work commute, maybe you're running into some frustrating traffic along the way when you just want to go, go, go. Now, Mars in the 3rd house can also make you a little bit sharper with your words. So be careful, with how you sort of phrase things and how you articulate these things for the rest of the month. Now, some of the higher side of Mars in the 3rd house, wherever we have Mars, we can actually get a lot of work done because it's where we find our energy. So, if you have to get a lot of writing done, this can be a great placement to just throw yourself at it. And Mars in the 3rd house, because this is a planet of activity, can mean that you can actually get a lot of activity done in your neighborhood. This would be a great time if you like doing any outdoor activity, like playing tennis and badminton in the park or going for a jog around the neighborhood. This could be a great transit for that. Now, Mercury, which is a pretty neutral planet, not necessarily too hard or not necessarily too easy. He represents communication, And he's moving pretty fast this month. So he's starting in your first house of self for the first 10 days. So with Mercury in the first, it's a really good time for articulating yourself well. You know, this is before Mars goes into the third house. So the beginning of the month, you're going to be a lot more articulate. You'll be able to get your words across the right way with Mercury in the first. Then by July 10th, Mercury is going to move into the second house right after Mars moves out of there too. So Mercury in the second is going to be a little bit easier for your finances, you know, the last 2/3 of the month, because Mercury, wherever we have Mercury, is where we're thinking, planning, strategizing, and where a lot of communication in our life might take place. So a great time for financial planning, you know, a great time for sort of talking things through with people in terms of money. And, you know, if you want to buy or sell new things in your life, or get rid of some old things that maybe you could sell off on Facebook Marketplace, Mercury in the second can be a good time for that. Then by the very end of the month, on July 28th, Mercury moves into that third house where, remember, Mars is as well, but Mercury in there is going to just add more activity to the third house. So again, I really like this month in terms of getting a lot of writing done, especially by the end of the month when you have both Mercury and Mars in here. Mercury in the third can also be great for learning new things. You know, Mercury is naturally has an affinity to the third house because it's naturally ruled by Gemini, Mercury sign. So you know, by the end of the month, really great time for learning new things, as well as maybe getting lots of writing done in whatever way you need to in your life. Now, finally, Venus, the lucky planet, the easier planet. Now, she starts the month in your second house. She's going to be there all month because she is going to do a retrograde cycle here. So with Venus in the second house, again, we've looked at the second before because Mars and Mercury are both in this house this month. So this is the house of finance. It's the house of possessions. And when Venus is in here, she just wants to enjoy her life by acquiring more lovely things. Maybe art, maybe luxury items, maybe beauty related things like fashion with Venus in the second house. Now, when Venus goes retrograde, which is going to be on July 22nd, Venus retrograde cycles tend to be times of relationship review in our lives. Anytime a planet goes retrograde, we're reviewing what that planet signifies. So this Venus retrograde is going to really review your relationships in the context of money as well as values, because that is another signification of the second house. So you might be, if you have a relationship, if you're currently in one, you might be thinking about how you and your partner share money, who's the breadwinner, how is it managed between the two of you, should you keep it separate a little bit more. And Venus in the second might make you go over the values that you have with your partner. Do you have the same political values, family values, religious values as well? And, you know, Venus in the second house, if you're single, you might be thinking about your next relationship in terms of these things. What are the values I want to have with my next partner? Or how is money going to work in the future versus how it has in the past?
Hi, Jamie here. Horoscopes and moon videos are fascinating, but they're more general than personal. Did you know we run live workshops monthly and that you can get questions answered about your own chart there? This month's topic is harvesting your Jupiter luck, and in it you can find out when is the next time you'll have money luck, career luck, or relationship luck, or even a period of personal charisma that makes you especially persuasive and attractive to opportunity like a magnet. This workshop is expressly for our Tier 2 Patreon subscribers. It's easy to sign up at the Patreon link in the description below. I'd love to see you there. Now let's get back to the video. Well, for a couple of months now, we've been having one easy moon per month and a difficult one per month. But this month, both moons feature a lot of harmony, which is terrific. Let's start with, on July 3rd, the full moon in Capricorn, which is happening right here in your 7th house, opposite to your own sign, Cancer, whether that's your sun sign or your rising sign. So this moon is lighting up the domain of relationship right here, partnership. Now, full moons have a tendency to be partnership oriented to begin with, because when the sun and moon oppose each other, it sort of creates a partnership dynamic and a tendency to identify with one pole of this polarity and embody that, and then to project the other or to experience the other coming at you from somebody in your life. And how much more this is true when one of these poles is landing here in your very first house. So chances of you identifying with these Cancerian planets, as Julia and I were saying, Mercury in your first house has you embodying, intelligence and wit and articulation. And Juno in your first house has you embodying social finesse. And all of those factors come into play during this full moon. Now we're calling this one Grow Your Emotional Intelligence. And that's because there's so much strength here in water with these planets placed in Cancer, but also they form a lovely trine to Saturn here and another water sign, Pisces, and they form a lovely sextile to Jupiter here in practical Taurus too. So while the moon in Capricorn might have a tendency to clamp down on emotions and intuitions, and while you might experience that coming at you from a partner or a friend or somebody that you work with in a collaborative way, you don't have to just take that clamping down. You can, continue to stand fast in your intuition and your instinct and what you feel, and use that reflection to clarify it, to get it more grounded and apply it in a practical way. And there's lots of help and support for responding that way. So this is a pretty nice moon, and I think you're going to be feeling it pretty strongly. The next moon I want to tell you about is the new moon in Cancer. So that falls in your own sign. It's happening on the 17th, and therefore it's going to land right here in your first house. And we see the sun and the moon together at 24 degrees. This moon also has loads of harmony, a little bit of stress. The sun and the moon oppose Pluto. They square Chiron, but there's beautiful sextile to Uranus and a beautiful trine to Neptune. So this moon also loaded with harmony, and we're calling this one Brilliant Psychic Insights, because again, we've got this emphasis on deeply intuitive and very nurturing and caring Cancer, with this trine to Neptune amping up that intuition, adding quite a bit of imagination to it, and not in a paranoid way, although Pluto is definitely contributing some of that. And it wouldn't be surprising if during this moon, you feel like other people are coming at you with a kind of a desire to control what you're doing and how you're feeling. But there is wonderful help from Neptune supporting your intuitions, and Uranus providing the occasional lightning bolt of insight. So this one definitely is going to bring forth some brilliant psychic insights. And then the last thing I want to talk about is that the sun is going to do a seasonal change. It's going to change signs. And at the beginning of the month, we saw that there's still plenty of placements back here in Taurus. We're seeing this little concentration here in Cancer. And then as the month goes on, we see things kind of moving out of Cancer and on into Leo and towards Virgo. And so there's this general migration through the sign of Cancer and off into the sign of Leo. And how much more so when the sun arrives there in Leo, which is your second house. So while the first house is really, really full for you, it's birthday time, and it's a really great time. And this is you have the feel of this, even if you're here because Cancer is your rising sign instead of your sun sign. When the sun is passing through your first house and crossing your Cancer ascendant, it has that feeling of birthday, and it's a great time to accept other people's attention on you. And when other people put their high quality attention on you and you put some of your own attention on yourself, you can be so shiny and charismatic and express your big personality. So then on the 23rd, the sun is going to move on into Leo here in your second house and begin to light up your financial arena. Now, wherever the sun goes, it sheds sunlight, and sunlight is a really great metaphor for our attention, because wherever we put our attention, things can thrive and grow. The second house being the house of food, body, money, the things that connect us to the physical world that help us to survive and thrive. And when the sun is here, it's going to spend about 30 days in this house. And this is a really great time period for you to pay attention to your finances, to your food and eating, to how you conduct your life of the body, the habits that you have that maintain your physical health, and to spiff them up and shine the light of consciousness on them so that things can really thrive and flourish in your financial arena during these 30 days of the sun's passage in your second house.
Well, that's all for today. If you love Pandora Astrology's free and informative horoscopes, then please do hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share our horoscopes with your friends.
You can find out so much more about how this month's transits affect you in very personal timing in our monthly Patreon workshops. Find the link in the description below to get started. Enjoy your summer, and until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos.
Bye-bye.